Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney, and I have the honor, now the pleasure. I'm going to call him Sal. That's what I call him. It's Salvatore. I mean, that's what the fancy people call him. But this is my buddy, my brother from another mother. How are you doing, my man?
My brother, I am fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Guys, buckle in. Deep conversation about to go down. What I like to do with my guests is let them tell the story of who they are or what they view themselves as. See, I'm already getting deeper in the intro than I normally do. And I let them start where they want to, and I'll let you take it away.
Well, wow. Right into the spotlight, huh? Here we go. In a little shot. Well, brother, how do we begin this life, man? First of all, I want to acknowledge you for holding the space for me to be here and to share a message that hopefully can inspire hopefully some people can resonate with and connect. So, who I am, Salvatore was born in Lima in Peru. And I moved to the States when I was 8 years old. You had the typical immigrant story, the nuclear family, mom and dad, little sister and me. We moved to the States, moved to Miami, and we arrived into not even a bedroom, actually. So picture this, it's a 1-bedroom apartment, and the living room is divided by one of those like space dividers, right? Kind of like one of these that I have here. And behind it is a twin bunk bed. And so mom and dad are sleeping on the twin on the bottom, and me and my sister are sleeping on the top, and it's our friend's place. That's how we got here, eating ramen soup and eating Pollo Tropical and Miami Subs Grill.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been quite the ride, man. It's been quite the ride. I now live in Los Angeles, California. I work mainly as a spiritual guide. I teach meditation, I facilitate breath work, and I assist in shamanic journeys as well. That is one aspect of what I do. That's something that I love to do that allows me to serve others and to bring this message, to bring some truth into people's lives, some more presence, how to connect with their light, how to connect with their truth. And I'm also Peruvian and Italian. And so, I love food.
Yes, you do.
I do.
I love that, and we'll unpack that whole thing. But what I want to do is I want to go back to when I met you like 2 years ago, the first time. You were working in real estate. You were working for a gentleman in a mastermind, helping people in that community and everything. And, how old were you at the time?
I was recruited out of college by this gentleman who we both know, Rock Thomas, right? And that was after I went to my first Tony event at 17. So that was 5 or 6 years after that, in which I started working for the mastermind in which we met. And I was working in sales and recruitment for people with this high-level mastermind. If maybe your listeners don't know, this was a whole life millionaire sort of entrepreneur, investor mastermind. And I was recruited by Rock to essentially design the intake system, the membership recruitment process, how we asked questions, how we invited people, how we discovered if people were right for the program. And so that was my moment that I was sort of thrust into the fire and was told to figure it out and to get over my bullshit limiting beliefs and the fear of displeasing, this fear of selling, the fear of asking questions, the fear of not being good enough, because here I am, this 22-year-old punk straight out of school, has a life experience, but, at the time, I didn't feel like I was in any position to be asking people questions like that. But I had to get over that pretty quick because I needed to produce some results for the people who hired me.
and you're asking people to spend, $500, $600, $700 a month.
Mm-hmm.
People that I would imagine are highly successful people too. And so you're just this young kid and you get thrust into this thing, but it was, a community of a lot of people that were driven, a lot of people that were doing great things. So I would imagine the energy of the environment was intoxicating for a 22-year-old.
Definitely, definitely. And what it gave me was not only connected me with people who I still am clearly connected to and very close to today. That's how we met. It opened up so many doors for me. But what I think I took away the most was a doorway onto fulfillment and how to truly be happy. Because at the end of the day, in masterminds, at Tony Robbins seminars, at TR Vecker seminars, Jim, whatever you want to do, if you're watching YouTube videos on Tom Bilyeu and Tom Ferriss, everybody's looking for one thing, right? That inner peace, how to be fulfilled. How the fuck do I be, how can I be happy, right? With myself, with my life. And so getting that insight into the strategies that people use to build up the financial freedom, to give them the time that they want to spend, how to level up their peer group, how to invest in their health, how to invest in their lifestyle was really cool for me to see from an early age, because then I had sort of a window into what that looked like and helped me maybe avoid a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the pitfalls that are along the way. And, there certainly will be many more that I will encounter as life is, but it taught me a lot, man. And, it gave me some really invaluable experiences. And it also taught me what I don't want out of my life as well. And I think that's something that you and I touched on in our conversations over the months, over the years, is that it's important to look at why you're really doing things. And if you are someone who works in a job, a 9 to 5, and you say, okay, I watched a couple seminars, I'm ready to quit my job and to get into investing and to do this whole thing. But you got to see if you're just picking up another, you're jumping into another hamster wheel of achievement, of goals. And if you're really happy doing that as well. So, some people get to find out on their own.
And then you had the luxury of meeting me when I was clinging on to personal development and masterminds, and like a rocket ship, we had a conversation where you were doing the things that you wanted to do, but from high school to college to the mastermind, you were kind of like always working. And I remember that. I don't remember everything about that conversation, but I think that you bought a one-way ticket to Europe after we spoke for an hour and a half. Is that how?
How it happened was we connected, and you're someone that just asks, the deep questions right up front. Like, are you happy? Are you doing what you want to be doing? And I said, it's cool that I'm helping people and we're in personal development, but I'm not really happy. Like you said, I never got a break. I was always working. I was always looking to achieve something, and I never had the time to reflect on why I wanted to be here, why I wanted to create, and what I wanted to create, what the hell I was passionate about, not just following someone else's lead. So we were on the phone. You said, what do you want to do right now? If you could do anything in the world. I said, travel to Europe. That's my dream. You said, do it. I dare you. Went on Google Flights. I saw a one-way ticket, Miami, Madrid for $300. And I called one of my best buddies, also named Austin. And I said, hey, buddy, you want to go to Spain for a month? He said, yeah. Okay, I'm booking your ticket.
Yes. And then you started laying the groundwork for going to Europe, and you wound up going for 3 months.
Man, so I booked the ticket. We had that conversation in I think it was January or December. And I booked the ticket for May. And so those 5 months were spent sort of tying up loose ends. I left the job I had at the time. I'd made some money, so I was able to set that aside and pay for the trip in advance. And I took off. I actually went for 4 months.
Okay.
I went for 4 months, 6 countries, met endless people and parties and experiences. I went skydiving in Prague. I ate my weight in pasta in Italy. I drank enough wine to drown an elephant in Spain. It was amazing. I even got to go to a Tony Robbins event in Amsterdam, and that was really transformative too, because it gave me sort of a clearer vision on the kinds of businesses that I want to create, because that was business mastery too. And of course, I also did the magic truffles at the the park in Amsterdam, which that experience gave me the clarity I needed to say that I wanted to move to the West Coast, to Los Angeles. So from that point is when I resolved, when I get back from Europe to the States, I'm packing the rest of my shit, because half my life was already in a suitcase, and I'm going cross country. I'm not waiting. I'm not trying to set roots down again, because so what ended up happening is I got back from Europe and everybody's like, wait, you want to move to LA? That's crazy. Why don't you go get a job in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, go get an apartment, save up? I'm like, no, man, got to keep going. Got to burn the boats. So I bought another one-way ticket.
Yeah, but wait, do you remember another conversation with me? I remember where I was going to a meeting at the Hyatt Hill Country in San Antonio, and you had been in Florida for a month and you hadn't bought your ticket to Florida, and you were stuck again. And I kind of had one of those big brother talks, probably not anything that needs to be recorded. So
you were more than generous enough to help me out on the way there. And after that conversation, I arranged my stay, I booked the ticket, and I took off. I had one suitcase packed from Europe, and I just packed the second one, and I said, let's go.
No, you just reminded me. I totally forgot I did that. See how I just whip out my credit card like that and I don't even realize what I do? Because in the moment, I just want to help. So, but for
your listeners, Austin is the kind of guy who you're eating at the restaurant with, and he goes to the bathroom and he's come back and the bill's already taken care of. That's how good of a guy he is.
Don't get me all jealous and get me all red faced. So, thank you. But what I want to unpack first, right? And I want to relate it to your trip, because it's very important to people. And I say this to everybody that goes. And I don't care if it's Costa Rica, I don't care if it's Europe. What I really mad at myself about, and maybe I wasn't in a good headspace in a lot of things in my life when I went, but that moment in time, when you've made the decision to do the travel, don't bastardize it by worrying about where you need to be. And that is a moment in time and space. Those 4 months, you can never get those 4 months back. And what gift did you give yourself for the rest of your life for making that jump and making that leap?
What gift? Is that the question?
Yeah. As you look back on that trip and we're removed from it, like, do you regret it? Would you do it again? Like, what do you take from that? Like, I know there's a lot to unpack there, but just ultimately, like, because in the moment that probably felt very scary to make that leap.
It was scary. And, anybody that tells you that there's no fear is absolutely fucking lying, because there's always fear. It's always going to be there. It's like telling someone to get rid of their ego. It'll always be there. It's about how you integrate it and how you deal with it. And so what that trip taught me was how to deal with that fear. And in taking those steps, it taught me to slow down, to live each day in the moment, to not want to plan out the destination or where you're going to end up. When I booked that trip to Madrid, that one-way ticket, I didn't know which city I was going to leave from in Europe. I discovered that 2 months into the trip, just depending on where I was at that time. And so I think that's a good analogy. It's a good example of how in life we're so destination focused and we're so goal oriented, in which we think of, this is where I want to end up, the kind of business I want to run, the kind of lifestyle I want to live. And that's fantastic, because it gives you a compass, it gives you an idea, but it's important not to get attached to that expectation, to that desired outcome, because you'd have no idea where the twists and the turns are going to take you. And having that deep trust, that deep faith in that it's going to be for your highest good, and that the how comes later, that's been the biggest lesson that I'm still learning to this day, to be honest with you, man. Like, there's times in my life where I feel fear and uncertainty about what's going to happen next month, next week. But I keep coming back to those lessons that you don't need to know. All you need to do is realize that you're right here and you're right in the present. And I think that sort of brings us to what we were talking about yesterday, in which, you hamper on this, and this is something that I've learned from you in so many ways and applied in my life, is to have fun, right? To live. Like, if you have the ability to go travel to Europe for 4 months, go do that, because you're going to regret it in 20 years. When's the last time you're going to be in your early 20s, free to go? So I don't regret it whatsoever. I mean, I think it was one of the best things I ever did for myself, for my growth, and to not, almost get it out of my system. I went to state school. Was in a fraternity. I partied and I did all this, and I feel grateful for that, because I don't foresee a quarter life crisis or a midlife crisis where I want to go buy a yellow Porsche and go party in strip clubs, because, man, I had some fun. And so got that out of my system. It allowed me to live and taught me even more about how to stay present and to trust and to not worry, because that's where the magic happens, when you leave that room for spontaneity.
And ultimately, to piggyback on that thought, and we talk about this all the time, I think we as people, not self-sabotage in this setting is not the right word, but we put things in front of us, meaning a big house, a big car, debt, that force us into a situation or a box or decisions that ultimately aren't the decisions of who we want to be, to impress people that don't give a fuck about us. And so it's this perpetual cycle of, the reason that you can't go to Costa Rica for 2 weeks is because you're paying for shit that you don't even need. And so my question to you is, what is the actual life, or like, what is the purpose to living, right? In my spirit animal, Matthew McConaughey, says, LIVIN, baby, and so I don't want to be 60 years old and be wishing and hoping on a bad knee that I can do these things. And so I think Tim Ferriss said it like this like mini retirements, like over and over again through your year, like take off 5 days or take off 2 weeks and become recharged. But we've become the society of like push. And this is the number one thing I work on, is I push the pedal down when I feel it. And when I don't, I kind of like limp through it. But I was talking about today, my habits and the people I'm surrounded with allow me to operate in a space, whether I feel it or not, because there's people that care about me, and then I care about my daily habits, and so on and so on. So it's this cycle of like making sure that every day that we're pushing the pedal down, we're working towards something that's mine.
Absolutely.
And somebody else's.
Absolutely. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, Austin, because some people, there's been the notion out there, and, certain individuals who are all about the push, right? Work hard so you can be rewarded later. There's merit to that. Absolutely. But there's things called flow, right? It doesn't require you to push where you don't need to push, because eventually you'll push and you'll get tired of pushing, and there's nothing pulling you towards that destination. No emotion, no. And man, I think that's something that I've learned in the burnouts that you've hit in the past, right? You hit some burnouts and you're like, why am I even doing this? And so if you reward yourself in those little mini retirements, like you're talking about, that can create a lot more balance in your life, and instilling the belief that you can have it all, right? Instead of punishing yourself and pushing and instilling this discipline, right? Discipline is a word that's thrown around a lot, and especially around habits and forming them and sticking to a morning routine, sticking to your work schedule, to the commitments that you've made. Discipline's fantastic, but I think in my experience and in a lot of people's experience, discipline has led to a lot of self-chastising, beating yourself for maybe not waking up at 5 a.m. the next morning because you wanted to sleep 2-3 hours longer, not thinking that's okay, right? And so I like to make the distinction between discipline and devotion. Devotion is so much more powerful because if you're devoted, if you're so committed to living an authentic lifestyle and it's a lifestyle that's aligned, that's in balance, that's in flow, then you leave room for those days where, maybe you wake up a little bit later, but then you make up for it the next day. Or, you make that meditation a little bit longer because you feel that day you needed it. And maybe you don't, and you push everything an hour back, but you're devoted to living that lifestyle. You're devoted to connecting and aligning with your highest self instead of disciplining yourself towards that direction, because then you're just cracking the whip on yourself. And man, that doesn't feel good, right? But if you're devoted to living a life of purpose, a life of presence, of awareness, of impact, then, man, I see you jumping in there. You got some brewing in there.
No, I mean, I'm in class right now because it's Omar, our brother from another mother, I joke about this all the time. He does the greatest impression that we of society have taken words, right? And I was just talking about this today on a Clubhouse thing. We have taken words and we've put them in our to-do list and we've bastardized the shit out of them. And those words are value and fucking gratitude. And well, I said my gratitudes and like, why is my life still dog shit? It's because you don't mean them. You're just ticking them off of the box. And your explanation of devotion, like perfect example from a separate point of view. My intention with my life is I want to live a healthy lifestyle. So that doesn't have a bench weight on it. I'm not in PE class. It doesn't have a time I need to run. But overall, my thing is I like to work out every day. It doesn't matter what that looks like, but that works for me. And I think I lose this weight, right? And people DM me like, dude, what's the program you did? And I'm like, bro, it's not a program. You're the program. Like, you have to be the change. Like, it doesn't matter what fucking shoes you're wearing. It doesn't matter what your gym outfit looks like. It doesn't even matter if you have a fucking gym. I promise you, if you walk 20 minutes a day and listen to a meditation for 30 days straight, your life will be better. I promise you. And you'll be healthier and happier. But we're too worried about the results of said thing. This is going to, I pay for this and it gets me here. And it's like, you have to get there first in your mind, and your subconscious has to believe, right? The belief of said thing has to hit before the actual act of it.
Absolutely. And that's the key to manifestation that I talk about in the work that we've done with visualization and gratitude and feeling the wish fulfilled, right? The subconscious is what drives your behavior. And if you're telling the subconscious that you're going to punish it for not doing what your conscious mind wants it to do, then it's going to rebel against you, because everybody's got that little rebel that doesn't want to do what the parent says you should do inside them.
You know what my friend said this morning from England? I love European people. She goes, I met the inner person of me when I first started working out. And she's like, that motherfucker is a bitch. She's like, and I was like, but that's the truth. Dude, I'll be honest with you, full disclosure. Like, I'm on my second round of 75 hard. I've been very sore this week. And there's a part of my inner little whiny guy that's coming out a little bit. And this morning I had to listen to Ray Lewis. Do you know who Ray Lewis is?
Oh yeah.
And he told a story about his mom, and I was like, you're good, let's go. And like, there are tricks. Everybody's different, right? And in those moments, I know that, and me and my buddy said this all the time, there's test days. There's test days. But the people that are happier and better for it show up even when they don't want to, and they get through those test days and know it's not perfect, but they're committed to the devotion, there you go, of what they're bringing to the table and what matters, right? Ultimately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And know that, in those days that there is no rush to get there, right? So it's okay to have those days. it's important to bring that devotion and bring that drive and the hunger that you exhibit and combine it and balance it out with that self-compassion, that self-love. And that I harp on that a lot, because I've been a person who in the past used to drive themselves so hard into the ground. And so it's about finding flow, and it's all about flow. And flow is in the presence, right? In the present. And that's something that I think you and I talked about a lot, is that people forget to live because they're so attached to their outcomes that all they're thinking about is that, and they're not really here, right? You can tell when a person walks in a room and all they're thinking about is, how fast can they get to 1,000 doors? And they've got that hunger in their eyes of, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? And you don't have an honest and genuine conversation. You see that in real estate rooms. I'm here in LA, and, people in Hollywood, they say, like your soul brother, Matthew McConaughey, I was just listening to his interview with Joe Rogan about green lights. And he said that when he got to Hollywood, the guy who brought him, he said, never look like you need a job. Never look hungry, because people can smell that from a mile away. They'll fucking hate it.
Dude, I just had a coaching client who, no need to say his name, but he was unhappy about his position, and he's happier and he's more firm in who he is. And so he asked for what he wanted in a promotion, and they gave it to him, right? And he was very nervous about the conversation. He said, why do you think they were so inclined to give it? And I said, because you believe it in yourself, and they can see that you mean business, and your energy says that. And he's like, holy shit. And I was like, because you know it deep down here. And he's young, and I'm like, dude, are you building legacy? Or are you building transactions? And he's like, no, you're 100% right. And so it's just about, what people don't understand is you said this to me when my life was falling apart and I got laid off and divorced. You said sometimes we have to what did you say?
Contract.
Sometimes we have to contract to expand. And I had to, a lot of people walk around like iPhones. There's a lot of apps open. There's a lot of mind loops. There's a lot of things that are left unsaid. And sometimes I had to close out about 15 years worth of anger, frustration, mind loops to get to a reset of the iPhone of me. And start piecing together what I deem necessary for me. And we still don't 100% know what that looks like, but I'm more me than I've ever been. And I will forever chase that version of myself, because at least good, bad, or indifferent, it's mine now, not somebody else.
Absolutely. And just like closing all the apps on your phone when it's running slow, you do that with your life. It's a process of elimination. You're shedding off what's not you, what's not true. And you're coming back to truth. You're coming back to who you are. Our mutual friend, actually, Ian Lovaus, he's a coach, and we met through M1. He shared this with me, and someone shared this with him. I'm sure that when Michelangelo was asked about the David, his famous statue, and they said, how did you do it? He said, well, it was easy. The David was already in that slab of marble. All I had to do was remove away the pieces that weren't David.
Oh, Jesus. That's so good. I'm interviewing Ian in like 2 weeks. That is so good. No, that is, guys, just let that sit with you for a minute. Somebody asked me yesterday, dude, coaching clients are crushing it. They're so happy. These testimonials are ridiculous. Like, what are you doing, man? You're a freaking amazing coach. Like, nope. Nothing special here, guys. Well, what are you doing? All I'm doing is removing the energy blocks and the limiting beliefs so they can tap into the greatness that's already inside them.
Absolutely. Reminding people of the truth. We all know, right? Everybody knows they should meditate. Everybody knows they should follow their dreams. Everybody knows they should be inspired. But who's reminding you? And are you reminding yourself of the truth that you were light, and to get really metaphysical here, right? That you're not a body, you're not your mind, you're not your experiences. You are a soul. You are an expression of the divine. You're an expression of light. Once you realize that, and you realize that that light is infinite, then your life becomes infinite. And it doesn't matter if you die tomorrow, because guess what? You're coming back for another round, like you've done 1,000 times before.
Yeah, I love it. And what I want to talk about is what you texted me last night. What is your definition of purpose versus passion?
Oh, man. I just want to say that this lesson really hit home for me pretty much this week. Like, I've been harping on this for months now, but I watched with my girlfriend, we sat down the other night to watch we went on Disney Plus, and there's a new movie out called Soul.
Yep.
On
Amazing.
Disney Plus. Holy shit. That changed my life. I mean, that drove it home so well. And for those of you who haven't seen it, go get a Disney Plus account. Go put on Soul.
Mine, guys. Yeah.
It'll blow your mind, because through those cartoons and that movie, the message was so simple. The purpose of life, and everybody's so caught up in what's my purpose? What's my purpose on this earth? What am I here to do? Blah, 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 blah. The purpose is one, and it's the same for everybody. The purpose of life is to live it. The more living you do, the more present you become. Because when you're living, you're right here in this moment. The more present you can become, the more truth you invite into your life. Because if you're present, then guess what? All those worries about, your next paycheck, your worries about Sally this and Sally that, or all the bullshit that you're thinking about, all those open apps on that iPhone of your mind, you realize that none of that is real, right? All of that is mental projection, thought loop bullshit. When you live right here, you're in your body, and you say, okay, what's the next step? How can I keep putting one foot in front of the other, continue to be more loving, more grateful, and just live, baby. Just have fun. Just be right here. And that's the purpose. And that's different from passion. We can get into that after, because passion is what people think their purpose is.
100%. And we're going to get there, but I want to relate it to something I heard from just to kind of maybe make it easier to digest. This guy named Chad Wright. He's an ultra marathon runner, ex-Navy SEAL. He's on Andy Friselli's podcast. Good old boy. They asked him all the time, like, how the hell did you get through buds? How did you get through 250-mile races? And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, it's just one foot in front of the other. He goes, it's just 1 mile loop, 256 times. And he goes, the moment that my opponent starts talking, or says hey, we only have this many more miles, he knows I got him. Because he's invited negativity, and he's invited that he's just focused on 1 foot in front of the other over and over and over again. And we sometimes make assumptions, like this is what we do the best. We're assumption kings and queens on what somebody's doing by not texting us back, or this client's doing this or whatever. And none of those things have happened. It's your insecurities that have triggered the false narratives that are living inside of your brain. Instead of just being present in who you are and knowing that no matter what happens, the aggregate of life is that I hope that you would make it to the next day. I hope that your bills would get paid. I hope that you would eat. We create these scenarios in our mind that are they're ridiculous on so many levels. And I'm guilty of it, and you're guilty of it, and we're all guilty of it. But I've at least been able to center myself back into the fact that I'm living my purpose, and my purpose is so high that I'll never get to the end of it. And that's what pulls me through in the days I don't want to.
Absolutely. And that'll make you okay with dying too.
Yeah.
Because if you live every day, then you say, okay, if I die tomorrow, I live today. It's all good.
And where do you think that people get the passion thing wrong?
Well, not wrong, just a bit misguided. And they're just pounding their heads against the wall because so what we're talking about is people mistake purpose for passion, right? And they think, what's my purpose? Is my purpose to be a speaker, a coach, an investor, an entrepreneur, whatever, right? You said it. I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. You said it, I invest in real estate. I fucking hate real estate.
Yeah.
All you people out there.
It doesn't. Oh, perfect example. I know what I want to do in real estate that gives me the fulfillment that I need. And so I'm seeking that now, opposed to a dollar amount. And then for me, that's new construction, because in my core, I'm a builder. Like, I'm a builder. I like to see things go from. My favorite thing to do in the entire world is mow grass. This is not a joke. My manifest dream for myself is to have 40 acres and a lawnmower on a Saturday, listening to music. This is not a joke. I would be the happiest human on the planet because it's something that I could start and finish. And so the aspects of that association towards real estate, and guess what? After I do that for a couple of years, I might move on to something else. But
you're building, you're constructing. That's the passion, right? Yeah. That's your spark, like the movie Soul, right? Find your spark. What's my spark? My spark is to pour my love into something and to see someone consume it and love it, right? My spark is cooking, right? I can make you a meal anytime you want. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Is like you said, you want to mow grass and you want 40 acres to mow and a massive property. So you do real estate. Mm-hmm. My passion, my spark is to see that person's look in their eye when they take a bite into the food that I prepared them. Mm-hmm. What do I want to do? I want thousands of people to do that.
Yeah.
I want to create more restaurants.
I have the same feeling when I'm serving a drink or wine, because I've consumed, and even though I don't consume it anymore, I've consumed the story and the romantic nature behind said whiskey or said wine, or a Basque wine, and understand that this was an old culture that used to harpoon whales from a rowboat, and they were like, man, we've had a long day, we want to make wine. And so like I understand the whole genesis of the wine, and I met the winemaker. So like when you see me, like, so I hear like Basque wine, my ears like like I'm like at a party. But like that's something that, but ultimately, what would you tell somebody? Here's the kicker. People have families, people get themselves in debt. How do you balance what sparks you and what you have to do in reality? Is there a game you can play, or is it the 80-20 rule? Like, how do you do that?
For the people who have those responsibilities, I would say connect to a spark, right? And follow that. Like we talked about yesterday, the passion can pay the bills because it'll drive you to create something, construct something that will not only motivate you, but pull you towards what you really want to do. And man, maybe that spark is to see the light in your kids' eyes when you have a bunch of presents for them on Christmas, or when they get that new house, or you want to set them up for their own success in the future. That can be your spark. That can be your passion. And to know that it's never too late to pursue that. Because passion is one of the things that makes life worth living. And if you are just simply making money to exist, and that's where you get the stereotype analogy of the Wall Street hedge fund guy who's making billions of dollars but wants to put a bullet in his head because he's not happy. No amount of money will ever make you happy, truly happy. No amount of success, no amount of houses and cars and external validations. But to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with a life of peace and prosperity, of making enough to feed your family, making enough to live life the way you want to, and to live peacefully, right? Like, I can't remember who said this, but someone was talking about problems, right? You know, people got problems who are in debt, but people who are millionaires just got $1 million problems. And just bigger problems and more of them.
100%. More money, more problems.
No money, more problems.
And here's the kicker. And this is what they don't tell you. And I'm going to take it 9 layers deeper. You have to be so firm in your vision of who you are and comfortable in your own skin, because your views of feeding your family or being happy or coaching your kid's soccer team is not what society tells you. And so what people freak out, right? I probably turned down 2 or 3 properties to manage in Airbnb a week. I just turned one down yesterday. But it doesn't align with who I am. That type of property doesn't align with who I am. And let me tell you something. It's very hard when you like more money that allows you to travel. But Gary Vee said it perfectly. It's not so much about how much money you make, it's how you make your money. And so I have a clear vision on how the money that I make comes in, and I don't listen to some dickhead on Facebook or Clubhouse that tells me if you do this email thing, you can make 7 figures. Well, great. I'm going to feel like soulless inside, and it's not going to do anything for me. And that's a hard thing to do when you have buddies who talk about $70,000 wholesales and $350,000 wholesales, but that's good for them. But that's not who they're going to be forever. And so it's a weird experience when you can just like champion them on and say like, that's how you make your money, and they're happy doing it. They like doing it. So it's something that people don't talk about enough, like being comfortable in your own skin.
Absolutely. And that comes with awareness. That comes with meditation, with understanding who you are and what you want out of life, not accepting the beliefs and the projections that are thrown onto us by mass media, by social media, by influencers who say this is the way to be happy, or this is how you're going to be free, right? Tony Robbins said it best. The strongest force in the human being is to remain consistent, is the desire to remain consistent with your identity. And if you have no idea who the fuck you are, buddy, you're running in circles.
I think I know that
Chasing
guy.
the next carrot.
I think I know that guy. I met him for many years. But something I want to talk about before I get you out of here, because it's very important to me, and it's something I'm working on. Stick with me. Like, I know it's important, and I swear to God, I'm gonna put more attention to it. And it's not a joke. I know you work with entrepreneurs that are like not maybe 100% happy, but talk about breath work and meditation and the things that people don't understand about the aspects of said things.
Absolutely. Like you said, I work with entrepreneurs. I work with people who, because it's a lot for me to take the average Joe and talk to them about limiting beliefs and unpack all that training and all the seminars. So I like to work with people who have that background in personal development, who are seeking something more. Maybe you've spent years in that, but then are still not happy. And because that's what happened to me. I spent 7 years, going through 13 different Tony Robbins trainings and seminars, mastermind classes, mastermind calls, books, everything you could possibly think of. And I still wasn't happy. Then I found meditation. Then I found breath work. And what's so important about meditation and breath work is it opened up a space for me to become more aware of the patterns that I was running, the beliefs that shaped my behavior, that shaped the fears that kept coming up, the passions, the goals, everything that was coming out of my head. It helped me undo. As the Greeks say, know thyself is the path. And so meditation allowed me the awareness to do that. And breath work is the bridge between the mind and the body. And so when we get into personal growth and we start getting in our heads about, oh, this, what my mom did to me when I was 5 caused this trauma, and this is why I'm this way. And, maybe because Gary Vee said to start an online business, maybe I should be doing that. Or maybe I should be doing what Grant Cardone said, or maybe what Tony Robbins said, or Dean Graziosi. And then you start running loops and loops and loops. There's no answers in there, right? Because it's just all made up. It's all fairy dust, fugazi, right? And the breath work, the meditation, allows your awareness to get outside of the mind, outside of these conceptual thoughts, of these loops, and come into the body. Slow your heart rate down. Drop yourself into the present moment, into truth. And at that point, you become a bridge. You become a bridge between the metaphysical, spiritual, all this stuff that we talk about that some people go too far into the bridge to action, the bridge to tangible action, tangible results, and the 3D life, 4D, 5D life that we want to live. Mm-hmm. So it's been so important for me to work with people that understand what it's like to construct your own life, but also understand the metaphysical aspects and the energetics of it. Mm-hmm. And so this world of meditation and breath work, the way I've dove in, it allows me to be a bridge between both of them. Mm-hmm. How can you take this visualization, this meditation, these gratitude exercises, and allow that to be an engine, to be a compass for the action that you're going to take in the 3D world? Because guess what? You can take as many mushrooms and as many ayahuasca trips and as many everything, all that, and sit in meditation in the Himalayas for 30 years. But, it's not going to spawn a business. It's not going to spawn a house, a life that may be worth living on itself. So how you take that and combine it to aligned action and achieve that balance, right? Because guess what? You can be up in the clouds, but your body's down here and you still got to play this game, this 3D game.
Amen. Dude, that's my thing. I'm all about the metaphysical aspects of life, but unfortunately my body is right here and there's a game to play, just like you said. But it's interesting. You said something to me when I was in LA. I've said it to a million people. And now that it's cautious to me, I've noticed it, right? And it's the way that you said that Tony Robbins speaks. And he's up and his diaphragm's up. And what I've noticed is people that don't love themselves or are having trouble with self-confidence, their chin's down. And so when I'm speaking to them, I've realized that my energy and my mannerisms can control, they almost mimic me. So nobody's allowed to have their head down because I bring the fire, I bring the energy, right? And what I realize as a coach is they're almost paying me for my energy. Like that. And so what they're doing, right, is Lucas Piper said it to me great. Said it to me amazing. And I've held on to it forever. He said, I open the door for you to masterminds and higher level people, and you kick the motherfucker off its hinges. He says, I just gave you a peek into the world and you went in full force. It's the same thing I do with people. I give them another perspective or another outlook with my energy, because with energy, we have the possibility to change. But with the possibility to change, that's all we need. That's it. And so you have to bring this energy, right? And so millionaires and people that do deals operate on a different fucking frequency. And if you're all over the place and you're not comfortable in who you are, they can sniff that shit out like it's ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, I can sniff it out in not only your body language, but in the words you use, in the patterns, and how many times you say the word like, where your eyes are going, what your hands are doing. It's all connected. And meditation and breath work and getting to know yourself allows you to get your energy right. It all starts with energy. It's the only unlimited resource that we have on this planet is energy, because the body's going to die, but that energy can transform everything. Mm-hmm. So
if somebody's new to breath work and meditation, what do you think's the easiest foray into that and that avenue?
Seek guidance. It's I talk to a lot of people. I work with clients who come to me and said, I've tried meditation. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do with my hands. I sit there. I feel stupid. I feel like I can't sit still. And it's like saying, oh, like, did you ride a bike? You learn how to ride a bike by yourself? No, you probably had your dad hold the seat behind you until you learned to balance, right?
What somebody we heard on a podcast the other day is, they said, what is meditation? He goes, all you idiots are reading all these books. He goes, it's the art of doing nothing.
Yeah.
He goes, sit there until your mind doesn't have anything left to think about.
Yep. There's a great documentary on Netflix about meditation that just came out, produced by Headspace, which is fantastic. And it explains meditation as being on the side of the road, watching cars go by. And the cars are thoughts. And now sometimes when you're caught up in your thoughts, you're in the middle of the road, you're chasing cars, you're almost getting hit, you're trying to dodge them, and you're being frantic. And that's how most people live their lives. But if you're able to just take a step out and see what's going on, then it all starts to make sense. And you start to calm down. And you let go of that need to always do, right? That anxiety of what should I do next? What seminar can I take next? What training can I get next? What podcast should I listen to next? What YouTube, whatever it might be. And just like you said, the art of doing nothing, the art of being, right? Because we are, to say this, I know you guys have heard it a million times, we're human beings, not human doers.
Boom.
Oh,
love it. And if people want to find out more about you, how do they get a hold of you, so on and so on?
Well, I spend a lot of my time on Instagram at salva.live, salva.live. I put out videos on some of my thoughts about this life on there. And I host free weekly guided meditation and breath work. And so I invite anyone and everyone to come to learn how to sit with themselves, how to do nothing, and to learn the difference, we won't get into this time, between passive meditation and active meditation. So passive, learning how to do nothing; active, using meditation to visualize and manifest and create your reality, construct your life.
Boom. I'm not even going to say anything else. Guys, I didn't feed him that line. He knows how to put it in there. So guys, if you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you, Austin, brother. I love you.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.